So let's talk. Let me give you my side of that story. So I got handed the mic. It was announced that this was going to be the last question. And what I wanted to find out from JJ was simply, how does he address a lack of effort with the team? What's his philosophy, right? Because throughout the interview process, he had been talking about the lack of effort. He'd been talking about how he didn't like that LeBron at nearly 40 played harder than anybody else, and rightfully so. He was upset about that. And it popped up a few times throughout the interview. And so I caught on to that and thought, I want to find out how does he deal with it? Because you can practice, like if you're a bad three-point shooting team, you can practice more threes. If you're a bad rebounding team, you can practice rebounding, right? Sometimes an absence of effort can be a more difficult thing for a coach to address. So what I was trying to find out was, what does he do to fix a lack of effort? What's his philosophy there? That's what I wanted to know, to get some insight into how JJ is as a coach. Now, I will say this. I did a horrible job of actually asking the question. I was not succinct. I did not get to the point. I rambled way too much, and I'll tell you what happened. So I get the mic. I start to ask my question, and I put it up as the thumbnail from the interview. JJ has a death stare. And JJ looked at me as I'm starting to ask this question, and it dawns on me mid-question, oh no, I've made a mistake. Like this, I am not going to get the answer right now. Like he was done talking in that moment. You could tell, you could feel it. And at that point, I had already committed. The nosedive, I was full into it, and there was no chance that I was going to pull up out of this thing. So even though it dawned on me mid-question, like, oh, this is not going to go well, at that point I was committed. So I continued to fumble and stumble my way through the question. And once again, I did a terrible job asking the question. So then JJ answers the way that he does, right? He says, I just did, drops the mic. I've seen some of the response online has been, well, it was a terrible question. It was a terrible question. He'd been talking about that the whole time. No, not what I was trying to find out. I've been talking about a lack of effort. I wanted to find out how he addresses a lack of effort with the team. And that's why JJ responded the way he did. He was not saying, I just did, like I was just talking about that. I've already answered that question. That's not what he was saying. He was saying, I just did, like I just handled that with the team. Because after he put down the mic and he walked off, he turned back and said, it's the first thing I said to them.
So you heard what he had to say. I'm very happy that I came across that video yesterday because now I have a better understanding of what took place. So apparently JJ Redick said more. Trevor Lane actually gave his reasoning as to why he thinks JJ Redick could have possibly been irritated with his question. But here's my overall thought about this. Regardless of whether or not JJ Redick was upset or not, or he was fuming at the fact that the Lakers lost that game, it still didn't look good for him to just storm off and walk out of the room like that. Apparently, there's even a video that's going around, circulating around the internet of where I believe D'Lo tried to hit his three-point shot in that game. I think he missed a three. The camera panned to JJ Redick, and you could see JJ Redick like slamming his chair, slamming it and jumping up and down like in anger at the play that basically developed, and it obviously didn't work out in the favor of the Lakers. And as I'm seeing this, I'm saying to myself, JJ Redick needs to do a better job corralling his emotions. He needs to do a better job. Why? Because we're only 8 games into the season. We're only 8 games in. That's number one. Number two, your team is going to take on the personality of the coach. And if you're a guy that's getting flustered and blowing your top and getting angry and jumping up and down, your team is going to mimic that. I remember one of the issues that Shaquille O'Neal, when he was with the Magic, one of the issues he had with Stan Van Gundy, he used to call him the master of panic. If anybody ever watched Stan Van Gundy coach a team, you will know that Stan Van Gundy wore his emotions on his sleeve. And whenever his team wouldn't do well, you could definitely see it from the coach. And in some cases, that may demoralize the players. Whereas if you look at more stoic coaches like a Phil Jackson, you would not be able to tell if the Lakers are up by 20 or down by 20 just looking at Phil Jackson's countenance. And that's something that Tyronn Lue developed. So when you can remain emotionally stable it actually helps your team. If you look at some of the best coaches in the NBA, yeah, there are times when they kind of lose their cool. Greg Popovich, you've seen that happen from time to time. You've also seen it happen with Eric Spoelstra from time to time. Ty Lue, not as much. But usually those coaches, when they're getting upset, they usually get upset with the refs once or twice, but like on occasion. But if they want to chew out their players, you've seen them do it. Like there's footage of Greg Popovich going off on Kawhi Leonard. But generally, these coaches are able to control their emotions. That's number 2. And number 3, we have to look at this scenario in the context that JJ Redick is in. It's not like as if JJ Redick is coaching the Charlotte Hornets or the Brooklyn Nets. He is the coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, where any little thing the media is looking for it as an opportunity to run with it.